Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Bet the Edge. It's Thursday, December 8th. Thanks for watching live on our NBC Sports YouTube channel or listening on podcast form. Drew and I are here. We're handicapping the Battle of Los Angeles. No, it's the Raiders facing the Rams. We'll also discuss playoffs right now, who's going to make or miss in the NFL because we got some long shots. Well, I got some long shots. If Drew's going to talk me into those or off of those teams, we'll talk about the Raiders and then NBA as well. We got a big matchup. Nuggets and Blazers tonight and two other games. All that and more coming up on Bet the Edge. It's Raiders laying 6.5 at the Rams. Over under 43.5, Drew. I mean, the Rams, you can't get much worse than this over the last 6 games, my man. Are they live or what?
No. I like the way you set it up, though, as sort of the battle for Los Angeles. Because what's funny, and if you've never been here, if you don't live here, if you haven't ever seen football fans in LA, there were plenty of bandwagon jumpers for the Rams last year as they won the Super Bowl. Lots of people went to the supermarket and bought Rams hats and Rams fingers, and it was a good old time watching the Rams win the Super Bowl. But and no one really supports the Chargers here. But you know what? Win or lose, there are always Raider fans in LA. They go hard, and they love this team. And I'm excited tonight to see if this has any sort of hometown bias in favor of the Rams. I mean, the Rams do a really nice job in the stadium of kind of making it feel like a hometown crowd, even if it is, say, 60 49ers fans on an NFC championship game, for instance. They'd still make it feel like home field advantage is a thing there. But that said, I would expect a lot of Raiders fans there tonight. The Raiders are absolutely live still to get a wild card spot, even though they're 5-7, which seems crazy to say. But some of it is schedule related in terms of who they've had to play. Some of it is they are just playing better football. They are getting in the conversation offensive player of the year performances out of Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams. Now, these guys have been punching bags for a lot of the season because it looked like Devontae Adams wasn't worth what they traded for him. And he made, Derek Carr took a step backward this year, and Josh McDaniels didn't really look like he knew what he was, kind of trying to do conceptually. But all of that has really changed, flipped on a dime following an embarrassing loss to the Indianapolis Colts that still stings me personally because I lost a lot of money on that game. But I would say that Vegas comes in here very, very, hot and inclined, to expect this team to perform well. Now, you do have a little bit of an experience at head coach with Josh McDaniels, and what he does to implement new wrinkles in the offense on a short week. It's a little bit uncertain that if Vegas is really going to have anything special here. The problem is this Rams defense is bad, and not only are they bad, missing some of their most important pieces. I thought last week in conceding 27 points to the Seattle Seahawks that was actually a very good performance by those guys in terms of the talent level of the players on the field, and expecting them to get up for a second consecutive game. I ascribe most of that to just Bobby Wagner up against his old team, rallying his teammates, getting them to really try to leave it all on the field. That's not going to happen again on a short week here. So I would expect that this is probably an underlook. This is probably a Raiders look. I'm expecting that if a Raiders have a decent lead going into halftime, let's say it's 7 points or more, that this is going to be a very, very nice spot to try to angle a second half under. These teams may basically just pack it in and call it a week. Rams look like they're ready to call it a season. And the Raiders, I think, staring at the standings, hoping that they can stay hot and some of the other teams start to slip.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Raiders a lot in this spot on a short week. But at the same time, I feel like everybody is going to be on the Raiders. It seems too easy to pass up. These teams don't play very often. I mean, every 4 years. The Rams, Battle of LA, we call it, have covered 5 straight against the Raiders. I would be pretty surprised to see them cover in this spot, though. I mean, the Raiders are rolling. They've covered 3 straight games. They flipped from underdogs in 2 of the last 3 to a favorite in the previous game, and they covered. And you know how we were talking about the Giants and the Commanders. Sorry, the Giants covered for you, but didn't get that outright win. But talking about games like that, man, I mean, I know when to back a team and when to stop backing them. And now is the time to stop backing the Commanders. This might be the time to start backing the Raiders. You know, as we talk about playoffs, moving on, I mean, the Raiders are making a case for why a team like the Chargers, they could be slipping. But before we move on from this game, Would you like either of these props? A Devontae Adams under 90.5 receiving yards, or
Yeah.
Van Jefferson over 35.5? I know Devontae's been hot, 126 or more in 4 of his last 5, but in a short week, this seems like the ultimate fade spot in what could be a very low-scoring game.
Yeah, it kind of does, and especially if sort of the game script manifests the way we laid it out there. If the Raiders are comfortably in control of this one at halftime, does he even see more than a target or two in the second half? It's tough to really expect that there's going to be a high volume of passing here. Now, if the Rams are plucky in this one, if they're scoring, if the Raiders defense doesn't show up because they take their opponent too lightly, yeah, then Adams is going to blow that total away. He's going to get into the 140, 150 range. So kind of a big spread in terms of the expectation for Davante Adams. So maybe if you're looking for a way to play that, maybe look for an alternate prop, like go low or high, because him kind of coming in right around expectation, is kind of missing what I think the most likely 2 outcomes are in terms of game script. Van Jefferson is interesting because I don't really know who else is operating in this offense, besides Tyler Higbee, and Tyler Higbee certainly doesn't have any chemistry going right now with Wolford. So I'm assuming Wolford plays. I'm assuming that Van Jefferson's going to be, target 1A, if not target number 1. And so, that him to the over is probably the only way to look there, because if the Rams do well, it's because he's, that connection is succeeding. If the Rams do poorly in the first half, they're going to have to try to throw their way back into the game, presumably. Jefferson over kind of is a little bit more resilient to game state.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of leaning tonight. I have Cam Akers in my playoff league, so I need some of him, but we're not going to expect none of that tonight. He ended up getting dropped by the time the night starts. Drew, last question I asked you on this game, though. If you're back in the Rams, do you think you can get a better number than the 6.5 or 7s that are out there? You could wait closer to game time. If you're back in the Raiders, the time to strike is now. Is that how it is?
So I don't think you're going to get better than 7. My general sense is this is going to close a flat 7. So if there's a plus EV bet to be made this moment, it's if you can get a flat 6.5. There's only a couple places that are offering that, though. This is going to probably continue to trend towards 7 all day. There's a chance that if Wolford is sort of given he's going, he's feeling good, he's looking good in warmups, maybe there's a little vibe back there and it comes back down to a juicy 6.5. But I think this is trending pretty obviously towards flat 7, just looking at the market makers.
Yeah, okay. That's a good piece of advice there. Definitely going to be a good game tonight, man. I hope it's going to be something worthy of watching, because there's not a lot of sports going on. But if you guys want betting and DFS and fantasy advice tonight, make sure you tune in. NFL and NBC Sports YouTube channel, 7 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Vaughn, Dalzell, Lawrence Jackson, and Kyle Dvorak are going to answer everyone's questions between the Raiders and Rams. We had a packed house last Thursday, about over 100 questions easy. So you guys already heard me. I need Cam Akers. I already expect that not to go my way tonight. But teams that make or miss the playoffs. The Raiders are making noise. If they win tonight, they are in the playoff picture. They're 5-7, so 6-7 will get you there. But there's 2 teams that I'm kind of eyeing up, Drew, and they're ugly. They're super ugly, man. Like, you're not going to love them at all. But there's value at PointsBet compared to other places right now. Pittsburgh Steelers, 12-1. Compared to 7-1 to 8-1 on DK or FanDuel. And you got the Detroit Lions sitting at 7-1 and plus 750. I mean, dude, the Steelers have a schedule. Like 2 games against the Ravens, maybe no Lamar, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Browns to finish up the season. They're playing pretty inspired right now. And for the Lions, I mean, just ATS monsters at this point. They're favorites against the Vikings. They got the Jets and the Panthers, and then the Bears and the Packers. I mean, I'm looking at these 2 teams as long shots, and I think there's a lot of potential here. Do you have a strong opinion on one or both of them?
Yeah. So the key question about where I think we go with this market is largely, what do you make the Raiders at the Steelers line on Christmas Eve? Because the way I look at sort of the fabric of the AFC in particular, I really only think there's one spot up for grabs. And I think that one spot is the 7 seed, and whoever can either gets hot or continues to stay hot a la the Steelers or the Raiders, is very, very, very much live to just capture that 7th seed. The problem for taking and honestly, the prices are nice. You can get basically a lotto ticket price here on the Raiders at plus 650, the Steelers at 12-1, and you just need them basically to stay hot, and you got yourself a nice little New Year's windfall there. But I think the key game is that those two teams play each other on Christmas Eve, as mentioned. That's the night game. It's in Pittsburgh. All of a sudden, that has huge implications. High leverage game. Rookie, quarterback and Kenny Pickett up against the much more experienced Derek Carr. I'm inclined to lean Raiders in that spot, and that may be kind of the buster because the Steelers really can't afford to lose. Otherwise, I love the Steelers' looks here because they match up well against the Ravens, who they play twice. They have the Panthers on the road there, which is a very winnable game against who knows what you're going to get at quarterback. And then, as you mentioned as well, they close against the Browns, who they also match up well against. So 4 wins looks very, very attainable here for the Steelers. That would take them to 9. They really need to get to 10, I think. 10-7 is the key number, which means that that Raiders game looms large. So what would you make the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Raiders in that spot?
I mean, if the Steelers beat the Ravens, which they're favored this weekend, I'm not in love with that spot. I've read the Steelers the past 2 games, but I'm not in love with them playing the Ravens with a backup quarterback. It just throws some things off for them. But I think they can win the next 2 games, and I would lay 1 point. Like, I would make that a pick-em type of game. It's going to be a brawl, but I think the impact of Josh Jacobs' health, too, is something worth noting because he's not 100% right now. He leads the league in rushing. We know what the Steelers' defense is capable of, stopping the ground game. Devontae Adams absolutely petrifies me as a Steelers fan. Like, they're not going to be able to stop him at all. So I lean the Raiders there, but like I said, I like the 12-1 value. You can hedge those both out very easily, in my opinion. We're going to talk a little bit about 2 more AFC North teams, but the Lions, can you get down with them, or are you kind of just, you're like, this is fun while it's lasting, but it'll be over soon.
Yeah, I think the Lions actually make for an even better bet. And some of that is because there are potentially 2 spots available in the NFC playoff picture as opposed to just 1. And for anyone that's listened to this podcast all season knows how strongly I feel about the Seahawks is probably like, what do you mean there's 2 spots? The Seahawks are absolutely in there. Yeah, I think so. But there are some signs that things are starting to wane a bit there, and they have some tough matchups these next couple of weeks, particularly in 2 weeks against that Niners game. But then, the Niners, I think, are in the mix to fall out as well now that they have Brock Purdy at QB instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. So one of those 2 teams in the NFC West falling out of the picture is not off the table, and that would open up a second spot because right now the market basically assumes that the Commanders and the Giants are just playing for that final spot and the rest is all settled. And I think that in reality, both of those teams are not secured in terms of their likelihood to continue to win. And that 6th spot may open up as well. So taking a swing on the Lions, who, are meaningful favorites against the mighty Vikings this week is not crazy. There's nothing really about the Lions' health situation that concerns you. They're healthy right now. They're getting healthier in general. They're going to add this, Jamison Williams as a weapon here down the home stretch, which may change the wrinkles in their offense a little bit. The offensive line is playing well. Jared Goff is looking pretty comfortable. And really, when I look at a player like Goff and a team like the Lions, I'm really only concerned about him operating the offense if he's under significant duress from, just violent pass rush, or if he's playing in unfavorable conditions, like out in the cold and wind. And he does have a couple of those games at the Jets next week, at the Packers to close the season. Those are going to be kind of the 2 that I think really decide the Lions' fate. But considering you're getting a price as decent as plus 750, that's a fun one to put in pocket and continue to cheer for what is a very fun story and would be a really successful year if the Lions can work their way into a wild card.
As of 3 or 4 weeks ago, everybody that had a win total future on the Lions thought their over was dead. But now it's more alive than ever. They have the longest ATS streak in the NFL, 5 straight covers. Also, if you like points, I think there's going to be a lot of points between the Lions and Vikings this weekend. Detroit allows a first down or touchdown every 3 plays. That is the worst in the NFL. So that is actually an insane stat that I found. But you hit a couple teams there that, caught my attention because the Seahawks at plus 375 to miss the playoffs. Could see that happening. One team that's not listed anywhere, though, that I want a piece of is the Baltimore Ravens. You remember what happened last year, right?
Yeah,
When Tyler Huntley and Josh Johnson
point.
came in, 0-5, 0-6 to end the season, 0-5 with the backup quarterbacks. We could have the same exact similar situation here. And I mean, the offense, man, is worse. The fourth quarter defense might be the worst in the NFL. And over the past 5 weeks, the Ravens are 31st in the league allowing plays with 20 or more yards. That is petrifying. So I'm looking at their schedule. They got the Steelers twice, the Browns now with Deshaun Watson, the Falcons and Desmond Ridder. Congratulations on your early win. And then the Bengals to close the season. I think getting the Ravens to miss the postseason is a pretty good bet right now.
That's interesting. Are we gonna have to shop around to get that? Because that
Nowhere's
is a who is offering it?
Nobody is offering it. Because if the Steelers beat the Ravens this weekend, they will be offering that prop, and the Steelers 12-1 price will be gone. It'll be more like 7 or 8-1.
Wow. No. Oh, so okay. Wow, that's surprising. Very surprising. So you can't really capture that. They're not. No one's letting you capture that EV, huh?
No.
I like that look. I think it's realistic that the Ravens could play their way out. Lamar Jackson is one of the most, if not the most, singular important player to his team because of his uniqueness as an athlete, as a as a quarterback. The most dangerous guy with the ball in his hands on every single snap, and you take him off the field, that's going to have a meaningful impact on that offense. And the offense outside of him and his particular role this year has been very, very poor. So things could go things could definitely go sideways in Baltimore. Even when he does come back, there's clearly, friction between him and the front office because of the contract, because of the weapons they've given him to work with. So a lot of red flags with Baltimore. I'm going to swing away on one that I think is going to make some people pretty angry. And that is the Niners. The Niners bill is 9-1 right now.
It's a great price.
Are you telling me that there is only a 10% chance that Brock Purdy is terrible? like that seems like not a big enough percent. I mean, we came into this season and I would have told you there was a 30% chance that Trey Lance was going to be terrible. And now Brock Purdy was the Mr. Irrelevant. Trey Lance was your 3rd overall pick. You have a very broad distribution for young quarterbacks in this league. And the idea that the Niners are a sure thing, I don't know about that. You can get even 22-1, huh? 22-1 at PointsBet. That's amazing. Wow. Realistically, I think the price that Brock Purdy is just unplayable at quarterback, and that they do not have a backup plan here. Josh Johnson is their backup plan right now. That to me is potentially an issue because the margins are pretty narrow here. I think realistically, if Seattle flips the division, the Niners only have 8 wins. It's going to take 10, I think, to get you in the NFC, which means they have to find 2 wins between Commanders, Raiders, Cardinals down the stretch. And that Commanders and Cardinals are the ones you would circle, and potentially that, again, the Christmas Eve game between the Commanders and the Niners might be for a wild card spot, realistically. And yes, that game goes on in San Francisco, but you're asking a rookie quarterback potentially against a very, very, very good defensive line to get a win. I'm a believer in Shanahan generally, but the degree to which the market and a lot of smart people think that Brock Purdy is going to be just fine in the Shanahan system, I'm best of luck to you.
Yeah, I mean, 2 touchdowns, great. 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions, not as great. In his 2 starts, this is 2 games this year, but he looked okay in the last game, but it was against a Dolphins team. And I mean, I don't know. I felt like the game script really went the Niners' way, even with those injuries in that game. But I'm with you. I'm going to take a shot on the Niners at 9-1, because I was looking at the Commanders at plus 130 to miss the postseason. I don't like them or the Giants. I don't feel comfortable backing either team. I don't like the prices of fading either team right now because we've missed that boat. But I think the Niners present some really solid value there. Before we move on to NBA, if there's any other teams, I want to hear what else you like. But also, can we take the Chargers out of the postseason in AFC? I mean, they all their games are by 5 or less points. They're 0-4 against teams above 500. I mean, they're just not a fun team this year, in my opinion, man.
Yeah, Chargers are cooked. This offensive line is the worst in football. The Miami Dolphins are going to have a very fun opportunity this Sunday with their new pass rush weapons and their toys going after this team. And then you get Titans, great D-line. Colts have a couple of decent pass rushers. Rams, potentially Donald is back for that game. And then you close out with the Broncos, who just a stout defense all around. No relief here for this Chargers unit that is very much under pressure.
The Chargers were plus 130 to miss the postseason as of 4 or 5 days ago. They're now sitting around minus 150 and minus 170 everywhere. So, some sharps are really on that one. They like the Chargers. They fade the Chargers, of course. Just a reminder, everyone, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play. You have a shot at winning $100,000 this weekend. Just guessing the outcome. Dolphins, Chargers, Sunday night 7 and Sunday night football. Make sure you guys go get that 100K jackpot all free. So we got a couple games tonight. We got the Clippers and the Heat. We got the Rockets and the Spurs. We got the Nuggets and the Blazers.
Good games.
Yeah, if you like basketball, they're good games. If you're a casual fan, you may not be too excited about tonight.
That's true.
That's true. Likely no Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers. The Clippers really struggled last night against Orlando Magic. It was a really good game that went into OT. Congrats to all the Paulo Banchero backers for over on points. He got 4 free throws in the last 6 seconds. Hit his over on point total.
Did you have that?
I put 20 plus in a parlay, and I guess the Cowboys just cooked when he had 13 with 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. But hey, the Clippers, they have the thing against the Heat, man. I know you're a Miami Heat supporter. The Clippers have won 6 of the last 7 against them, but they did lose the last meeting. I'm looking at this team, Miami, that's 3-9-1 ATS at home. Terrible against the spread overall in the season. I mean, they've been losing left and right lately, Drew. What are you doing?
Yeah, supporting the Miami Heat was very 2021, 2022. I have very much cooled on them. This team is broken. And, there's a built-in fade here on the Clippers because they're in a back-to-back and because the Clippers are so aggressive about resting their guys and load management, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I think they tried to load manage the front end of this a little bit and it bit them. It felt like they were kind of taking the Magic, like we can give a B effort tonight and get a win here, and they lose. So now there's a little bit of kind of more emphasis on this particular game. You're going up against, again, a Miami team that is broken. Jimmy Butler is questionable. The rest of the squad looks like they are good to go outside of Gabe Vincent. But realistically, there's even at full strength, this Miami team just has not looked anywhere close to as dangerous, as cohesive, and a lot of it is just figuring out the right pieces to put around your core. Moving Tyler Hero from the 6-man role into the starting lineup is something that was correct, especially considering how they were compensating him. But the growing pains are absolutely being felt right now. You've seen a little bit of a slide in terms of the quality of performance from guys like Butler and Bam, and there are leaks in this defense. The Clippers can absolutely take advantage of this. Give me the Clippers here. I don't know that I'm backing money line at 2-1-ish, but +6 looks pretty darn good in what should be a very competitive game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. You can't count teams out just because I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to play. He was sitting out for reconditioning, quote, air quotes. But, in 1 day or 2 days, he's not going to be reconditioned for this game nearly. So, I think there might be some value on the Clippers because once they roll them out, the public might want to go and bet on the Clippers, although I think the Sharps know JB, Jimmy Buckets, is out of this game. I think the Clippers are the right side. I would not be putting $1 on the Miami Heat right now. I'm done with them. But another game that I feel more comfortable putting my money on the Rockets and the Spurs.
Ooh, interesting.
The Miami Heat right now. But that is the NBA for you. And the over has hit 4 straight times when these two teams have met. We've seen some action move to the over already. The Spurs have covered 3 straight against Houston. They've won 5 of the last 6. Greg Popovich likes playing the Houston Rockets in this young backcourt. Any opinion on the side or the total? The Rockets only laying 1.5.
Yeah. Fun teams, weirdly, even though they are both very bad. These are bad basketball teams.
2 of the 5 worst teams in NBA.
Yeah. I throw them in the discussion with the Magic. just great fun to watch. Some good young players. I guess not as much on the Spurs side as the Rockets side. I think the Rockets should be a little bit more than -1 here. I would be inclined to bet that if it shows as a flat one. Although, oh no, somebody just snapped up the biggest limits available on Houston and pushed them up to 2. So that is trending in the direction of the Rockets as we are speaking. That's correct in my mind. San Antonio, even though Popovich does have the scheme to really make this, life a living hell for this Rockets backcourt, I still think the Rockets, they have their second unit in particular is so much more talented than what the Spurs are going to have out there when they're giving their starters a blow. So I think those stints can be the differentiating factor here and get Houston over the hump. It's going to be a fun game to live bet just because there's going to be big swings in terms of margin. If either Houston or San Antonio is up like 15, 20 points in this game, I'm not really sweating one way or the other because that's going to close. That's what you get with these young teams that are a little inconsistent, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Total's pretty high, but I get your points. 230.5 is probably, looking at my fares, about a 1.5 too low. I would have expected a 232 here. It looks like it's come down off the open for unexplainable reasons. I'm looking at the injury report right now, and potentially Kevin Porter Jr. is questionable. Maybe somebody has a little bit of insight that he won't play tonight. He's obviously a pretty important offensive piece for the Houston Rockets, but they can backfill. No one really missing for the Spurs that really spooks me in terms of offense. Some pieces that suggest their defense might be a little bit suspect with no Vassell, no Pirtle. So I like your look on the over, and it would be over or pass, and it would be Rockets or pass for me, but I haven't played that one.
Yeah, I'm in the same exact boat as you. And I look at the last 5 or 6 matches of these teams, and I mean, the only real positive and difference was Christian Wood being on the Rockets. But there was a couple of games where you guys got like Daniel Tice and Kenyon Martin Jr. starting or coming off the bench. This Rockets team's a lot more improved than it was the past couple meetings with the Spurs. So, yeah, this is absolutely a Rockets spotter pass, an over spotter pass. I was looking at some player props. If KPJ is out, Kevin Porter Jr., probably sign me up for some Jalen Green action. Because if he's the man on a mission by himself, we already know what he's really about. But there is a game, or there's a prop, I should say, that I do like tonight that I locked in. Nikola Jokic, the Joker. He's been super quiet, but over 23.5 points against the Portland Trailblazers. We were joking about how Nurkic and Jokic, they love playing against each other. I called a little competitive beef, and you laughed about it. But I just think that, I mean, obviously these are 2 international guys, 2 bigs. They play similar, like to shoot threes, go down low, rebound, get gritty. I think Jokic, after scoring 8 and 9 points against Portland in the last 2 meetings, he's going to turn up tonight. I'm looking at the over 23.5, thinking it's too low, especially on the road where he's 9-5 to the over this season. Playing at least 29 minutes in the last 4 road games for him, 32, 24, 19, and 39. Portland doesn't scare me defensively, Drew. I know they're talking about Lillard coming back and him being home. Exciting for Portland. Denver's been terrible lately, but, I mean, I don't want to bet a side in this game. I'd rather just bet on the former MVP, Nikola Jokic.
Okay. No disagreement. I love the competitive beef between these guys, Nurkic and Jokic. It's going to be fun to watch all night. And I think in general, that kind of pushes Jokic into, kind of more towards the perimeter in terms of trying to generate offense. I think we're going to see more 3-point shots from him. It's going around the league a little bit how you want to try to defend Denver. And honestly, Portland doesn't have the personnel to do it that way, which is basically just force Jokic to be more of a facilitator and try to get the ball out of his hands, because he's so, he's the second most dangerous player in the NBA after Steph Curry with the ball in his hands, and in my opinion. And so I think Jokic is always a fun play if you can get a total that low. Offense is going to have to go through him with no Michael Porter Jr. And I think you're going to see more 3-point shots, and they can't, as good as Nurkic is defensively, and he's kind of the core and crux of what Portland wants to do defensively. If you get him out on the perimeter, if you're asking him to move laterally much, he is all of a sudden very exploitable. So don't think they'll even try to do that. And I would expect that, Jokic is a solid look. That's a fun one. I will definitely go to war with you with Jokic.
Let's go, the Joker, baby. And tomorrow's episode, we're gonna have our edge of the day, talking a lot of football. Are you gonna have your best bet for the weekend in the NFL, or is it the NBA?
Oh man,
Do you
there's
have
a
anything you love in
lot.
the NFL?
So this is a weird thing, man. First of all, it's good to talk NBA. It feels good. Love it. It's been too long since we really got to dig in, and we're getting close. As you know, everyone knows, we're getting close to it being true blue NBA season as NFL winds down. Christmas games coming up; those are going to be fun. They all look very entertaining, and I'm starting to take my NBA handicap a little more seriously after a pretty sad losing start. But all that said, the NFL board looks wrong to me this week, all over the place, and that's not a great feeling this late in the season. Like realistically, I shouldn't be that far off market in this many games, particularly sides, because there are so many known things. But we have a couple of unique situations, like Tampa Bay is catching 3.5 against a rookie unknown. Pittsburgh's defense gets to take on Tyler Huntley in what looks like a good spot for me, and then you got a bunch of division dogs that are catching way more points than you would expect, considering how close these teams are. So a lot of fun looks in the NFL. I think that's mostly where I'm going to have my action the heaviest this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking it light in the NBA and college basketball. I've been practicing myself, but got to take it light because I think there's going to be some pretty good spots in the NFL this weekend. I know tomorrow it'll be you and I, or it'll be Jay and I actually breaking it down. So you're going to have to tune in, Drew. Get your winners from me, since we won't be in person doing it together. But this was definitely fun, my man. Hopefully we get some NBA winners tonight. As always, the Well Capper on Twitter, V-Money Sports. We appreciate everyone who tuned in live on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and everyone listening to the podcast for, make sure you guys do the same thing. We appreciate you. See you tomorrow.